All right, so we are on page 132 in our handy dandy notebook. Got it? I have no clue why it looks blurry, but here we go. So equations with radicals that have variables in their radicands are called radical equations, okay? However, we're not gonna do anything different. So we all remember PEMDAS, right? That's when we're evaluating. Remember, when we are solving, we're doing PEMDAS backwards. We're undoing everything, right? And I like to call that SADMET. So we're undoing the PEMDAS when you're solving. So that's the key thing to remember is inverse operations. What is the opposite of what's taking place? What's the opposite of multiplying? What's the opposite of adding? What's the opposite of square root? We're using inverse operations the entire time, okay? Now, when we're solving radical equations, there are 4 steps that we typically follow. The first step is to isolate the term involving the radical. So you want to get your root by itself. Okay, you want that to be on one side by itself. Then we're going to square both sides to eliminate the radical. Okay, you only are going to use the plus or minus if you take the square root of something. We do not need it if we're squaring. Does that make sense? We use the plus or minus if it's the root, but we don't need it if it's not. And then we're going to solve the rest of the equation using inverse operations. When we're done, before you ask me, Miss, did I get it right? I'm going to ask you, did you check yourself? Meaning, did you plug it back in and see if your answer is right? Okay. All right. Yes.
I have a question about it.
Yes. That is my friend. No, we're going to finish them on Monday.
That's what I tried to ask you earlier, but you went, I said 15 minutes.
I said till the remainder of class. I read what was on the board. All right, here we go. So our first example, the hope is, as I ask you what the steps we go, you see that the steps are nicely written on your paper for you, right? So that you should be able to easily follow along and tell me what we're doing, okay? So step 1, our goal is to get what? Isolate, to get the radical by itself. So what do I need to do to get the radical by itself? What's the first thing I need to do? So remember, we're doing PEMDAS backwards. So is there anything I can add or subtract away? Subtract 9. I can subtract 9. And that leaves me with 2 square root of x equals 12. So step 2 is I need to get 1 in front of the radical, which means what would I need to do to turn this into a 1? Divide. So I'm going to divide by 2. We get the square root of x equals 6. We're on step 3. What does it say? Square each side. So I'm going to square each side. So we have, when you square the root, it sets it free. And what is 6 squared? 36. So what is our answer? 36. If I'm not sure about it, what should I do? I'm like, oh man, I'm really not sure if I got that right. So I'm going to go substitute 36 in for x. The square root of 36 is 2 times 6 is 12. And 12 plus 9 is 21. Is that what I wanted? Yeah. So what does that tell me? It's right. Yay, I'm a genius. Okay. All right. How do we feel about 2 to 3 step radical equations right now? Right now, we're good? All right, good. So you have 4 that I would like for you to do. I'm gonna give you about 4 minutes. So it's about a minute each one for you to evaluate, okay? Really quick, when it says y equals, that means that this is 30 equals 6 square root of x plus 1, okay? So 4 minutes on the clock, and then we'll check. All right, let's see how we did. So number one, what was the first thing you should have done? So we substituted in 30 for y, then divide. Hopefully you divided by 6. So that leaves you with 5 equals the square root of x plus 1. After you divide by, now you have to get rid of the square root. So you should have squared, and that left you with 25 equals x plus 1. And then you minus 1. And that gives you what? 24. So x equals 24. You can do a mental check. That's why it says check your solution. So my mental check, 24 plus 1 is 25. Square root of 25 is 5. 6 times 5 is 30. All right, on number 2, you should have had 5 equals 10. Square root of x minus 4 divided by 10. 5 divided by 10 is 1/2. You're going to square. When you square a fraction, it affects the numerator and the denominator. So you get 1/4 equals x minus 4. Then you add 4. So x equals, so you could have written it as a mixed number, 4 and 1/4. You could have written it as an improper, 17/4, or you could have written it as an exact decimal, 4 and 25/100. Any 3 of these is appropriate. Any one of these is appropriate. That made no sense the first time I said that. My bad. The last part wasn't necessary. All right. On number 3, you should have subtracted 6. So you have the square root of x equals 5, and then squared. So what is x? 25. Good job. On number 4, you should have added 2. And you get the square root of z equals 6. And then you squared. So what is z? 36. How do we feel about 2 and 3 step problems? Good. All right. Now we're going to move into multi-step. So anything more than 3, we call it multi. Okay. I believe in you. Okay. So in conclusion, when we're working this, equations that contain radicals, we have to isolate the radical on one side, and then we square, and then we just continue, right? That's what we're doing. Same thing is going to take place. It's just that you have more steps. Okay, so let's look at example 2. We have 2 square root of 2x plus 2 minus 2 equals 10. All right. I've kindly listed out all the steps we're going to follow. The steps that we're following are algebra skills you already have. What makes it algebra 2 is putting all those skills together.
We're doing it by ourselves, right? We are?
No, we're going to walk through. If you feel confident, please work ahead. It's the bottom one, but it carried over. It's the same problem. Do it on the back where the steps are. All right. So what is the first thing it says us to do? So we're adding 2 to each side, and we're left with 2 square root of 2x plus 2 equals 12. What is our second step? Divide by 2. And we're left with square root of 2x plus 2 equals 6. What's our third step? Square. We got to square each side. So we're going to simplify, and we're left with 2x plus 2 equals 36. What's our next step? Subtract 2 from both sides. Then you get the wrong answer. So 2x equals. And then what's our last step? Divide by 2. So what is x? Yes. How do we feel? So it's more steps, but was it really difficult?
Yes.
Okay. The majority of the class, that one person, we know who it is. All right. So we're going to substitute in just to make sure we did it correctly. So we're going to substitute in. All right. And we want to see, does this equal 10? What is 2 times 17? 34 plus 2? 36. What is the square root of 36? 6. What is 2 times 6? 12. And what is 12 minus 2? Did we do it right? Yes, you're a genius. Good job, guys. How do you feel about multi-step? Doable? Remember, I told you, you already have the little skills. We're just putting them all together. Okay? All right, so I would like for you to work on the practice problems until the bell. I know you are. All right, so let's check what we have. So number 1 was our one stepper, right?
Yes.
You just had to square both sides. And what do we get for x? 169. Number 2 was our 3 stepper. What was our first step? Divide by 3. So we get the square root of 2x equals 4. Then, good job. So we get 2x equals, and then we divided by 2. X equals 8. Good job. Okay, so we're good with 1, 3. Now we're on to multi. What is our first step of the multi? Plus 1. Good job. And that leaves us with the square root of 3x plus 4 equals 5. Step 2, to square. And we get 3x plus 4 equals 25. Subtract 4. Good job, guys. And that gives us 3x equals 21. And then last step, divide by 3. What do we get? Look at y'all. All right, last one. What was our first step? Minus a dose. And we're left with the square root of 6 minus x equals 3. Then square. And we're left with 6 minus x equals 9. And then minus 6. And we're left with negative x equals 3. Then divide by negative 1. So what is x? Negative 3. Good job. All right, how do we feel? Pretty easy? All right, all right.